All right, let's just get right into it. If you are so tired of dating apps, I mean, if the idea of one more dead-end conversation makes you want to just chuck your phone into a lake, you are definitely not alone. There's this massive sense of burnout, this swipe fatigue. But what if the problem isn't actually the apps? What if the entire rulebook for how we date has just changed? See, the real secret to navigating this whole new dating world isn't about getting better photos or more matches. Nope. It's about understanding a hidden psychological pattern that is quietly running the show on your entire love life. And once you see this pattern, you will never be able to unsee it. So here's the game plan for this explainer. First, we're going to talk about the big cultural shift that's happening in dating right now. Then, we'll uncover that hidden framework inside your own brain. After that, we'll get into the super practical, new rules of engagement. And finally, we'll cover how you can actually build a real connection instead of just trying to find one. Okay, so first up, the great dating shift. We are seeing a huge move away from that fast food model of dating. Quantity over quality, endless swiping. The new thing is something called slow dating. And this isn't about being lazy or passive. It's actually a really deliberate strategy to find something meaningful by just opting out of the burnout. And this quote from Fashion Weekly just nails the vibe perfectly. This is a huge cultural movement. People who get it are so over the ambiguity of seeing where it goes. The new goal is clarity. It's about knowing where you stand and building something real, based on shared values, not just some fleeting spark. So, how do you even get that clarity? Well, let's explore that hidden framework I mentioned, the one that's been running your love life this whole time. We're talking about your attachment style. Think of it like your personal relationship operating system. It got programmed way back when you were an infant, and now it just runs in the background of every single romantic interaction you have. And the science behind this is called attachment theory. It was pioneered by John Bowlby and Mary Ainsworth, and it's this incredibly powerful tool that explains why you do the things you do in relationships, why you might get clingy, or why you pull away, or why you keep falling into the same frustrating patterns over and over again. Now, check this out. Strategically, this is so important to understand. About 50% of people have a secure attachment style. They're pretty comfortable with intimacy and closeness. But that means the other half of the dating pool is working with an insecure style. We've got about 20% anxious and 25% avoidant. Knowing this layout of the field gives you a massive advantage. So what does this actually look like day to day? Here's the simple version. Someone with an anxious style really craves closeness and is terrified of abandonment. This can lead to what we call protest behaviors, like texting a million times when they feel insecure. Then you have the avoidant style. They value independence and are terrified of being smothered, so they use deactivating strategies, like emotionally shutting down to create distance. And the secure style? They've found that sweet spot, a healthy balance, and they just communicate their needs directly. And here's the most important takeaway. Just by figuring out which of these patterns feels most like you have already taken a huge step forward. Seriously, you now have a level of self-awareness that most people go their entire lives without. And that means you can finally stop just reacting and start consciously choosing how you want to show up in your relationships. Okay, so we've got the psychological framework down. Now let's look at how that translates into action. We've talked about the why, now let's dive into the how, the modern playbook for dating with intention. Rule number 1 is to really, truly embrace slow dating. This is such a safe and practical strategy. It just means focusing on maybe 1 or 2 people at a time. It means planning thoughtful dates, like going for a walk or browsing a bookstore, and actually prioritizing shared experiences over endless texting. It's all about watching someone's actions over time to see their real values, not just rushing in because of a spark. All right, rule number 2 is about decoding the language of social media. And trust me, if you're part of our crowd online, you've definitely seen this play out. A soft launch is when you start dropping these subtle little hints, a photo of 2 coffees, maybe their hand in the corner of a picture. It's a smart way to protect a new, fragile connection from all the questions and public pressure. That's totally different from the hard launch, which is, the big official couple photo. Knowing the difference makes you fluent in how modern relationships work. Okay, now for something almost no one talks about. Rule number 3 is learning to decode the secret, unspoken language of attraction. Your date's body is telling you everything you need to know. Look for mirroring. That's when they subconsciously copy your posture or gestures. Notice if they have an open, expansive posture. That's a big sign of confidence. Pay attention to proximity. Are they leaning in closer? Even listen to their tone of voice. These are the hidden signals that reveal what they're really feeling. And that brings us to our final and maybe most important section. Because dating with intention isn't just about finding the right person, it's about knowing how to build something real and lasting with them. So let's talk about the architecture of connection. I know. This sounds like the world's most dreaded job interview question. But when it comes to dating, this is actually one of the most powerful diagnostic tools you have. And it has nothing to do with their career path. This question is a sync check. Their answer is a window into their core values, their ambition, and what their vision of a good life even looks like. The point isn't to have identical 5-year plans. The point is to see if your visions are even compatible. You want a relationship built on co-elevation, where you both support each other's growth. And this question tells you if that's even on the table. But what about when you disagree? Because you will. Here is a super practical, totally doable tool you can use tonight. It's called the speaker-listener technique. It's so simple. One person gets to speak for, say, 5 minutes without being interrupted. The other person's only job is to listen. And then, when they're done, summarize what they heard to make sure they understood. Then you switch. This little structure can prevent so many fights and make sure both people actually feel heard. And if a conversation just feels way too intense to have face-to-face, you can go old school with this technique. Write a letter. Seriously, it gives you the time to really figure out what you want to say, and it gives your partner space to process it before they have to respond. It just takes all the pressure out of those really emotional moments. So if you take one thing away from all of this, let it be this. Modern love is not something you just find, like an archaeologist digging for old bones. It's something you build, intentionally, piece by piece, like an architect designing a house. You now have the blueprint and the tools. But what happens when these different attachment styles actually collide? Specifically, what happens when a person who craves closeness gets into a relationship with someone who is terrified of it? This anxious avoidant dynamic is by far the most common and often the most painful pairing in the modern dating world. If any of this resonated with you, do me a favor and share it with a friend who's feeling totally hopeless about dating. You might just be handing them the exact playbook they've been searching for. Thanks for watching.